From the far reaches of the Milky Way galaxy, it's Retro Nerd Girl with a film review for you. Today, I'll be reviewing the movie Cool World, released in 1992. Starring Gabriel Byrne, Kim Basinger, and Brad Pitt. Directed by Ralph Bakshi. The synopsis is: Detective Frank Harris is trapped in a cartoon dimension for 47 years until he discovers that he must stop an ambitious animated woman, Holly Wood, from selfishly and unintentionally destroying the universe. The story began as a twinkle in Ralph Bakshi's eye. He once was an animator of cute kitty cartoons like Mighty Mouse, who became a director of mature-themed animated and live-action films, mainly in the 1970s and the early 80s. His original idea for the film was being a hard R animated live-action horror film about an underground cartoonist who fathered an illegitimate half-real, half-cartoon daughter who hates herself for what she is and tries to kill him. I mean, that is one heck of a concept. I want to see that movie. It was such a good idea that Paramount was smart enough to just scoop it up right away. For a while there, it seemed as if Ralph Bakshi was going to have his movie. A script and a wonderful storyboard was created for the film. Frank Mancuso Jr., son of then Paramount president Frank Mancuso Sr., was brought in to produce the film, since having a long career producing horror films such as the Friday the 13th franchise. However, Mancuso Jr. was at a stage in his career that he wanted to move away from being known as the horror producer and had the film completely rewritten in secret. When Ralph Bakshi was given the new script, he got into an actual physical fight with Mancuso Jr. and fists went flying. Mancuso Jr. said that in the changes to the story, he wanted to produce a film about what happens when someone creates a world, becomes defined by it, and can't escape. A film about being trapped by your own creation. It's not a completely bad concept either. This was probably reflective of his own feelings to want to get away from making films in the horror genre. And if explored a little deeper, this could have been really interesting too. However, this premise is not reflected in the story at all. The film heavily focuses on tempering the greed and ambition of the gorgeously drawn female cartoon Holly Wood, who has been compared greatly and resembles quite a bit Jessica Rabbit. There's a lot of similarities between the two characters. They are both exaggeratedly drawn and work/hang out at nightclubs. Initially, Bakshi wanted to leave the project, but Paramount threatened him with a lawsuit if he refused to complete the film. Well, you think that he would have been given rein after that to pretty much put his stamp on the film. However, the studio insisted on having specific actors in certain roles because of their box office draw, instead of letting the director choose which actor he wanted for the role. So after telling you all of that, I hope that sets you up for what I'm going to say next, which is how much I really enjoyed the visual aspects of the film and the visual storytelling that is done in the film. However, the actual story structure itself is very ununified, and it's actually a result of all of these different ideas and all these different things happening behind the scenes in the pre-production of the film. And also there were many editing decisions to try to piece together everybody's ideas into one film that was also PG-13 rated to reach a wider audience. The pacing at an hour and 42 minutes, the pacing is okay. The challenge. Cool World is a cartoon world filled with drawings from various comic artists, but at the time of this story, it's Jack Deebs that has a lot of his creative characters in this world. Dr. Whiskers from Cool World has created a MacGuffin called the Spike that creates a interdimensional travel between Cool World and the real world. In the film, humans are referred to as noids and cartoons are referred to as doodles. One of Jack Deebs' characters, Hollywood, is a dancer at a nightclub in Cool World. Hollywood thinks that she can have it all in the real world and enjoy fame and money and power. In order for her to do that, she has to become a noid. And apparently in this world, when doodles have sex with noids, they become noids. And Jack Deebs is her creator, is her answer to all of that. Hollywood is visually fascinating as a character. The film spends a great deal of time focusing on her, and in the original script, actually Hollywood was named Debbie Dallas after the famous adult film Debbie Does Dallas in 1978. She's bluntly intended to be a sex symbol in the film and a femme fatale, if you will. And most of the time she's also very, very defiant of rules and regulations or any kind of limiting structures. When she's told to keep her legs crossed, she is certain to do the complete opposite thing. And it's also pretty funny as well. Well, when she gets to the real world, it seems all of her plans get sidelined when she wants to stabilize her human form permanently, and it seems as if her plan is not fully thought out, making her kind of an accidental villain by the end. Empathy. The film starts off in 1945 in Las Vegas, in which World War II veteran Frank Harris and an accident with a drunk driver enabled Frank to transport into the Cool World. He's actually been in Cool World for 47 years, as I had mentioned before, and he hasn't aged a day since he arrived. Somehow along the way, he becomes the local detective who seems to be the only one who knows the rules of Cool World, and as he tries to protect the balance of the entire known universe. Holly tried to seduce Frank, being that he's annoyed, who could help her to also become annoyed. However, he's not available because he's dating a doodle by the name of Lynette, who works as a server at a bar. Does that remind you of any other character that from another famous movie? Well, it seems as if in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Eddie Valiant is a detective who is dating Dolores. Yeah, she works as a server at a diner. Very similar plot points and connections there. The love story between Frank and Lynette is actually a side plot point revolving around the fact that they cannot consummate their love for each other, which leads to more than one scene obsessively talking about it. On appearances, it seems as if Jack Deebs has little to no personality. He just seems very speechless and shocked all of the time. But it makes sense for his character because everything is happening to him and he's the one person that doesn't have a clue about what's going on. Kind of like the audience. In the real world, Jack Deebs has just been released from jail after serving time for killing a man who he found in bed with his now ex-wife. And he made a very big mistake, and it seems as if he's struggling to get his life back together. That could keep him as a reserved personality, and his art is really where he expresses himself the best. Seeing all of his creations come to life in Cool World is a dream come true for him. Holly asks him, "This is your idea of heaven, right?" Referring to those dark, scary landscapes that they drive through. And it makes it easy to see why Holly would want to leave, because she feels trapped by his vision. In the real world, Jack has a neighbor who is a very big fan of his by the name of Jennifer. She helps him out near the end of the film, and at first you think that she's going to be something of a real connection for Jack. She is basically only a placeholder for screen time and walks off screen empty-handed by the end. The technical aspects. The live-action cartoon blended genre of films was not a breakthrough. So to me, it's always fun to see. Ralph Bakshi said that he had a lot of fun with his animation team, and even at one point told them to do whatever they wanted because they really didn't have a screenplay to work from. He told them, "Do a scene that's funny, whatever you want to do." It's the main cause of the tonal dissonance in the film. The best animation was reserved for Holly, since she is the main focus of the film. Janine Jennings' live performance was rotoscoped for Holly and Lynette, while the characters were drawn on top of it. The care and detail shows in those two characters, especially because they were to be the love interests for the two main characters. Spain Rodriguez provided the artwork for Jack Deebs' drawings in his home in the film to give a layer of artistic depth. And I love seeing his work in the film. It really made it seem as if Jack Deebs is a man tortured by visions. Having a very limited budget, the sets were creatively done with painted plywood based on enlargements of designer Barry Jackson's paintings to look like cartoon environments. I really liked that effect in the film, and it was something that Bakshi had always wanted to do on screen. One of the most outstanding features of the film were the wonderful landscapes provided for Cool World, with surrealistic winding buildings, curved structures, faces embedded into Gothic architecture, haunting landscapes, glowing eyes in the dark, and unusual color schemes. It had a very hyper-realistic cityscape feel to it, and I just loved all that. It was, absolutely breathtaking. It looks like you're looking into somebody's thoughts. Despite the film's less than stellar performance at the box office, its soundtrack really gained a lot of critical acclaim and popularity, which consists of electronic dance and rock songs by some artists like David Bowie, Moby, Neil Tennant, and Mark Isham, the film's composer. I just loved all that great throbbing dance music jamming in the background. I thought it was cool. It created a special energy for the film. Performances. I liked Kim Basinger in this as Hollywood. Her voice was great for the character, and she definitely looked the part as the live action character. Gabriel Byrne did his best with his character, Jack Deebs. Unfortunately, there isn't much to do but to react to the other characters for him. But I think he puts his best with what he had. Brad Pitt also did his best with Detective Frank Harris, putting as much heart and charm into his moments on screen. As well, he also looked great in the role. Though there was just one scene between Gabriel Byrne and Brad Pitt that was the only scene that the two actors really get to really act, and they're doing it as if the Oscars depended on this performance. So it's actually kind of funny to see it in the film. Now, the best part of the film. The best part of the film is definitely the idea. It was a great idea. And the landscapes again. Beautiful landscapes. The ending. Holly suddenly becomes obsessed with getting the spike and unleashes the cartoon world into the real world. Now, the whole scene really looks like it has a very Ghostbusters feel to it, with streams of cartoon matter floating across the city, invading it. And there's so many really cool comical incidences melding the two worlds together. I thought that was really cool. It was a lot of fun. It's a fun and exciting scene, but it ends a little lackluster. Ultimately, Holly is stuck in Cool World and forced into a relationship with Jack, who has transformed into a hyper-stylized, corny superhero. It just seemed like an unsatisfying ending for Jack, being stuck in sort of a dysfunctional relationship with Holly. Jack loses his humanity by the end, which is kind of sad. Now, my wish list. I really only have one wish, and that is that the film was created and made the way that Ralph Bakshi really envisioned it. It would have been so cool to see his idea, because it sounds so, I hate to say the word, pardon me for overusing this term, cool. It seemed very cool. Like, how incredibly awesome would it have been? Enjoyment. This was Ralph Bakshi's last feature, and in my opinion, it was pretty interesting with some of the most imaginative background visuals. It doesn't go down as my favorite film, but it has an interesting style that I really admire and love looking at. It melds the immature mind with the mature mind without apology for being what it is. And that is what I enjoy about it the most. My rating is a 6.8. That sums up my review. I hoped you liked it. This is Retro Nerd Girl signing off. Take care, movie lovers. I'm off to my next review.